Greetings gamers, I'm Mark.
And I'm Manuel.
And welcome to Tabletop Throwdown. Manuel, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm really enjoying this cooler weather that we've been having lately here in the Central California area.
Yeah, it's even been in the 80s at some time, which is like freezing to us.
Yeah, it's almost downright chilly.
No, you're right. It's been much nicer. It's been much nicer.
Great.
Good time to talk about gaming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So folks, today we have another unboxing from you. We have a product called the UpZone pop-up terrain system from Everything Epic! Exclamation mark. Everything they do requires an exclamation mark. And so the UpZone system is a set of terrain that literally unfolds and pops up like the old pop-up books of yore with various kinds of themes. The Kickstarter that they just completed, they're in the fulfillment phase right now, has four main themes or terrain sets, 4 zones they call them. The Ancient Zone, which is a sort of desert Egyptian pyramid themed kind of a terrain set. There's the Cathedral Zone, which has more of a Gothic architecture, sort of a Warhammer kind of feel to it, with the buildings, stone Gothic type buildings. There is the Dungeon Zone, which of course would be a series of dungeon rooms that you can set aside in various patterns.
Great for a bunch of different games.
Yeah, good for lots of different games. And then we have what we're going to be unboxing here, which is the Obsidian Zone, which is essentially their Ancient Zone, but reskinned in a more sci-fi feel. It absolutely screams Necrons. We're not supposed to say that, but it screams Necrons. And then there's a sort of a tertiary add-on called the Tomb World Zone, which is basically their dungeon zone skinned in the same style as the Obsidian Zone so that it kind of goes together. So we're going to be unboxing these for you so you can have a look at them. We'll be talking about them a little bit, talking about the stretch goals that came with the Kickstarter. And so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get some of the shrink wrap off of this, and then we'll bring you the unboxing itself. See you on the flip side.
Yeah. So Manuel, you've been very eager for this to arrive, but you had one note to mention for the audience.
Of course, I wanted to just simply point out for audience sake that this was not sent to us for review. I purchased this through Kickstarter. I should say I pledged for this through Kickstarter like any other Kickstarter member. I pledged it for it because it looked pretty cool. I was interested in it. I liked the idea. And so we chose on our own to go ahead and procure this as normal Kickstarter members, paying full price as we did. So this was not sent for us for review. This is a review completely on our own for your edification. Okay, so here we are. This is the Obsidian Zone package. So let's go ahead and get this shrink wrap off. Shouldn't be too hard, I don't think. Nice big beefy box, by the way.
Solid box too.
Nice hefty box here. Very weighty. Feels like it weighs at least, I don't know, about 5-6 pounds, something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty hefty. So let's go ahead and take this this top off.
Okay.
All right. It's got a nice picture on the cover here, of course, of some of the contents. We'll show you the back. The back is kind of nice because it's got some good info on it, but we'll get there in a moment. It comes with a nice insert right on top here, as you can see. The great thing about this insert is that it not only enumerates the pieces, but also shows you some patterns here that you can put it together. These terrain boards can be put together in various patterns and make different sizes of table. You can do like a 3x3 table, a 4x4 table, up to a 4x6 table. And so with some imagination, you can put together these tiles in lots of different ways to change up your game board and use them in lots of different ways. So some examples, some sample ideas here for you to look at, and just some descriptive information here. The box, as you can see, comes very well packed. There's this nice piece of styrofoam right across the top there to protect our pieces. And then we've got more inserts here, more foam inserts to keep everything nice and tidy and keep it from jostling around, which is nice. So we'll go ahead and take those off. And right off the top here, we've got a couple of pieces. As I said before, these are pop-ups, so these unfold and they pop up into these particular ones. These are rooms. You can actually just use these as freestanding rooms that you put on top of the tiles. I'll show you that. We'll show you that later. So these come right off the top here, and then of course they fold back down nice and flat. The idea here is to have a terrain set that can break down and pack away flat, a whole table's worth of terrain that packs away flat in no time at all, which is really cool. I mean, as an idea goes, that's pretty slick.
How much did this do on Kickstarter? How much did it close at? Do you remember?
I don't remember the exact amount. It was in the several hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Because it seems like it would be popular because, like, for someone like you play board games and minis hybrids, but you don't play a lot of straight up minis games. So I was surprised when you said you bought into some terrain. But now that I see it, I see that it's kind of perfect for your situation.
For a situation like me where I like to play tabletop war games, obviously, games that use models and terrain and so forth, but I don't have a lot of room. I don't have a lot of storage space to keep, large extensive terrain sets. And something like this that can fold away nice and flat and tuck away is just really a godsend. This is just amazing.
Fantastic idea.
So this piece here, this particular terrain set has what amounts to a pyramid in it. And this here is the outer sleeve of the pyramid. And so the idea is that you can use the pyramid either by itself with the interior of the pyramid showing, or you can put this sleeve over it and make the pyramid basically solid. So depending on how you want to approach it, you have that option. The terrain set gives you that option. So it's just simply a little glued shut little bag here. We'll take that out real quick and show you folks what this looks like. So this thing expands. And you can start to get a sense of the scale of this thing. This is the pyramid. And it's so big I can barely even get it on camera. I mean, it is enormous. And we'll show you that a little bit more as we go, but this would be the outer skin of the pyramid. So if you wanted to show the pyramid solid, you would go ahead and put this sleeve over the top of it. And if you wanted to see the interior, like the corridors and stuff inside of the pyramid, you would take this sleeve off and show that. So a lot of flexibility there. Really, really well thought out, I think. This little sheet here, when we get a little bit deeper into the terrain system itself, some of the building parts are held together by tabs, and the tabs have plastic liners, plastic protectors on them, and these are spares. So should the ones that came with them fall off, break, whatever, you can replace them with these. So that's another nice piece of thinking ahead there by Everything Epic, including some extras there so that you can repair your terrain should it need it down the road.
Yes.
Okay, so the very first board that'll come out, and it just flips right open. And this particular one is just a blank board. This one is intended so that you can use your rooms that we opened up earlier, so you're starting to see how this goes together now. This particular one is just a bit of open space so that you can either throw the rooms on there in whatever pattern you like, and there's also some clips that we'll see later that you can clip these together so they stay better put. So you can go ahead and put stuff on them. You can not use these and put your own scatter terrain on here. So if you wanted to go ahead, for instance, and just put your own terrain on here, this is fine. Just use this as a backdrop that matches the rest of the set. You could do that.
And if it's hard to tell at home, folks, those of you that play Warhammer or other skirmish minis games, this is about kill zone size?
Roughly, roughly, yeah. So this is about the size of a board that you would see in something like Kill Team or what have you. So we got our empty space board, so there we go.
Those smaller pieces are thicker than the pyramid, by the way, which may be logistically necessary in the sense of the pyramid needs to be larger and fold up higher. But those are a little thicker, yeah.
So there we go, put that away. So we got another piece here, and this is one half of the pyramid. The pyramid comes in 2 tiles. You essentially get 2 of each tile. There's 2 of each specific kind of tile. So this is one half of the pyramid, and then the other half of the pyramid would go here to complete the whole pyramid, and then the sleeve would go over the top of that. So the sleeve would go on top of the pyramid, something somewhat like...
Oh, that's the sleeve, gotcha, yeah.
Somewhat like this on top of the pyramid. We'll take a shot of this assembled later so that you can see what that looks like. But as you can see, the pyramid has interior spaces. And so you can leave the pyramid open without the sleeve so that you can actually put stuff in there. You can have your miniatures actually walk through. You can put them on top of the various spaces and so forth. Again, we're not really supposed to say this, but you know, this absolutely screams Necrons with the crystals, the glowing green motif of it with a sort of black obsidian looking background. So there'll be 2 of these tiles. We'll be seeing another one here momentarily. And then of course when you're done with it, it folds nice and flat. Next up, we've got, if I'm not mistaken, this will be the other half of the pyramid. So there you go, the other piece of the pyramid.
Folds very easily too, no worries.
Yeah, folds open, folds closed, very nice. So here we have another structure. This is, I believe, called a mausoleum tile.
Oh,
and you
cool.
can see on the end of the structure here and here, those tabs that I was talking about. Now you can just open them up and leave them just so, and that'll work. I mean, that would probably for quick and dirty, throw it together, get it going kind of purposes, that would work. But you can use the tabs by slotting them in to the end pieces here, and it gives the building a lot more strength, firmness. You notice how it now sits a little bit more square. It's plenty strong enough to throw stuff on there. You can throw minis on top of there.
Plastic
Or metal. It's plenty strong enough to hold both. There's some internal, you can't see it from this angle now that it's opened up, but there's some like cross pieces that go in there that give us a nice firmness. And so you can take these tabs and fold them in to create a nice strong lock there that will keep this building nice and flat and open. You'll notice too that there's a lot of open space here that you can put tons of scatter terrain on this thing. Yeah. You could throw all kinds of scatter terrain. In fact, a lot of the stretch goals that came with this Kickstarter is scatter terrain. There's elements, little boxes and crates and things like that that you can scatter around. Or of course you can throw your own items on here, whatever you may have. You can fill in some of this space or leave it open so that your larger vehicles or whatever can truck on through. It's up to you, of course. And then when it's time to fold up, you just need to make sure to undo these tabs. And it probably doesn't show very well on camera, but these tabs do have a plastic covering on them. As I said earlier, you get spares of those plastic, that's plastic coating. They're kind of like stickers that you can repair them with should they ever become damaged. And then once you've undone the tabs, you fold it closed, and there's your board ready to put away.
Ideal to bring just to a game store that doesn't have terrain of their own.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. You just pick up this box, bring it with you, and you have a whole table full of terrain just that can set up literally in minutes. Like it'd take you like 5 minutes to set up an entire table. Here we have yet another style of terrain. This is what I call the crates. The crates terrain, which have like what amounts to like some small crates sitting on in a corner of it here that closes up very nicely. There are tabs in it. You can see probably from this angle there's tabs in there that you can use to secure this so it sits flatter and more square. I don't think I'll bother to do that just here now. I think it's pretty self-evident how that would work, but you would go ahead and use those tabs to keep it nice and flat once you've opened it, and then of course you would undo the tabs and then fold it closed to put it away. Here's a nice cathedral, Parthenon looking kind of a thing.
It's cool, you got all the fire lanes and you can dodge in and out of the building.
Exactly. Once again, it's strong enough that you could put smaller miniatures. I don't think you'd want to put a vehicle or anything really large up here, but some of your smaller miniatures, especially plastic miniatures, would probably fit on here and hold just fine. It's sturdier than it looks. The cardboard of it is fairly thick, not super thick, not as thick as these chambers are here. These are very, very thick, but thick enough that it has some strength to it, and you'd be able to put some minis up there if that works out in your particular game system. Again, plenty of room that you could throw scatter terrain on it. Looks good from all different angles. There's room in there that your figures could potentially squeeze in there, especially the smaller human-sized 28mm figures. Warhammer size, in other words, should be able to fit in there just fine. And so you have a nice little piece of terrain there that just pops right up, and then when you're done, it just folds right away. Next up, this one's an interesting one. It's got a tree, or actually no, I'm sorry, this is not a tree, this is smoke. These are meant to look, I think these are supposed to be like some sort of smokestacks or something, and this is smoke, billowing out the top of it. Makes nice blocking terrain though. This is something that you could hide a squad of troops behind or whatever for cover, things of that nature. In the other sets, in the ancient set and the cathedral set, this is actually a tree. I just know that from looking at it in pictures. But here they chose to render it as smoke, which is also effective. The style of this, we mentioned Necrons earlier, but this could be basically any generic sci-fi theme. I could see this being used like for AT-43, for example, as a Therian factory world. This would be perfect for a Therian factory world in AT-43, for those of you that are familiar with that game system. So I see a bit of flexibility here. You could use this for quite a lot of different kinds of sci-fi type environments. And then of course the Cathedral Zone and the Ancient Zone similarly could be used in a variety of different, for different styles and eras of gaming.
Last one in this box.
Last one in this box. We have yet another. There we go. We have another sort of a cathedral-ish looking kind of building, a ruin. Pieces of it are broken. It's kind of reminiscent of Warhammer 40k style Gothic terrain, which is often shot up and partially destroyed. They kind of have that sort of same thing going here, where it's kind of sort of shot up and broken. You have partial walls, things like that. And so once again, you have your tabs here where you can lock these pieces together and make them a little firmer, a little stronger, or not. You're not required to do that. You can just leave it as is and it'll work just fine. It'll just look a little neater, a little tidier if you go ahead and put the tabs in there and lock them in there. It just looks a little nicer if you do that. This one has various spaces where you could go ahead and put figures, so you have elevations here that you can put figures on. Nice visual appearance. I mean, the graphics on this look very nice, very convincing. And again, some open space should you want to throw some scattered terrain on here. That would work out very nicely as well.
I see this as a good deployment piece for the beginning of the game. If you have 3 or 4 of these tiles or 6 of these tiles laid down, kind of some of the troops up top, you've got some troops coming in over here, and just a nice kind of edge of the board, solid visual.
Exactly. Yeah, you could do all kinds of things with this. So, and there you go. Fold it up. And that's it for this box. Okay, we're back with the pyramid real quick before we move on to the Tomb World bit. You can see the pyramid assembled with the outer sleeve here on the outside. It has some tabs in the corners that you can lock the corner together. So one of the things that you could do, for instance, is that you could start off with the sleeve on it at the start of the game, and then if your characters should enter into the pyramid, there's some spaces, some openings where they can enter through the sides. Depending on how you want to run it, you can have them just sort of on the outer portions of it, or you can take the sleeve off altogether and then just expose all the interior so that your characters, your figures, can more freely access the inside of the pyramid. So it's fairly flexible. You can do whatever you'd like on that. You could simply call it so that your pyramid is not enterable, maybe. That could just be define in your game as being an area that you can't enter if that's what you want to do, and just have it just be a solid centerpiece to the table if that's what you choose to do. So anyway, we just wanted to show you the pyramid assembled before we moved on. Okay, and we're in our final stages of buttoning this back up. You can see how nicely it packs back into the box here. All the pieces kind of go in there nice and flat. Put our guy on there. Put this back on top with our flyer.
Perfect.
And then there it is, an entire table's worth of terrain. All boxed up.
Very cool.
Now, one real quick thing I'd like to point out is that it does have some graphic indication on the outside of what pieces are inside of this set. I think I misspoke earlier. I said something about there being 2 of each. I meant, what I should have said, is that there's 2 of a couple of the tiles. And for instance, this one has 2 of the pyramid tiles because the pyramid comes in halves, so obviously you need 2 of them to make a full pyramid, but there's only 1 of each of a couple of the others. And so depending on your set, and each has a slight variation to it, you may have duplicates of a tile, like the 2 pyramid tiles in this case. And then on the back here, some more graphics and such, showing you a nice view here of how one possibility, this is I believe about a 4x6 table of terrain. I mean, that's a huge table of terrain assembled there, how it might look with all the pieces put together. And that of course is before you even throw scatter terrain on there. Some indications here of what the other zones look like: the Cathedral Zone, the Ancient Zone, the Dungeon Zone, and then some pictures of the actual tiles that you get in this box, which of course we've already shown you. Okay, and we have the World Tomb Zone box, which again is sort of an add-on to the Obsidian Zone. It has the same style, so it's the Dungeon Zone pieces essentially, but done in a style of the Obsidian Zone to go with. So let's take the shrink wrap off this real quick. And there we are. We have the World Tomb Zone box shrink off, ready to open. So let's have a look at what's inside. As would be typical, your nice little flyer bit that goes inside there, which once again has some various patterns here shown, depicted, of how you could put the various boards together into various shapes and sizes.
Oh, that's cool.
Everything from a full 6x4 board to as small as 3x3,
nice.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Depending on how you assemble these. So there's a lot of variability, a lot of flexibility in how you could put these together to form different sizes of board. This table that we're doing the demonstration on is scarcely, what, a 3x3 table,
yeah.
give or take?
Yeah.
We have more terrain literally than we could fit on this table. In this box.
Yes, and for Games Workshop players, note that they included 44x60 in here, which is the standard 40K and AOS size.
Correct. So there's that. So we have a little 7x7 piece in a couple different styles. It's double-sided. This piece is included so that you have certain odd shapes sometimes when you put the boards together and you wind up with a hole, basically a 7x7 hole, and this is meant to fill that hole. Okay. These pieces here, these are clips. I mentioned earlier that we have clips to hold these different room pieces together, and these are the clips that I was referring to. You just pop them out, they're just punch cardboard, and you put these in the corners of the rooms to keep the rooms together more tightly, more securely. Now, this particular set is meant to be sort of a dungeon-y set in the sci-fi style, of course, but the pieces are the dungeon pieces, and so you have a lot of flat, open boards that you then put the dungeon cubes onto. So most of these boards will be open boards like this. So you have one here, and you have another here, double-sided this time. With the pop-up ones, obviously they have to be single-sided because you can't have pop-up on both sides. But these boards, because they're perfectly flat, there's nothing on them, you have one side that's sort of gridded. These are roughly 1-inch grids, which would be good for certain kinds of RPGs and game systems that use 1-inch grids. And the other side is still somewhat gridded. I'm not sure how well that comes across on camera. Still somewhat gridded, but not as obviously gridded as this side is. And you can use it, of course, either way. Yet another open board. This is just a flat piece. This one doesn't fold open, it's a flat board. And again, you would put these together in different patterns to form your tabletop. There's 2 of those. Same one. We have a couple more, looks like, just with a different skin on it, but just more open boards. And then last but not least, we get to the actual rooms, or the dungeon spaces, which are very similar in form and style to what we saw in the other one, except you have a lot more of them. And so the idea here then is that you would take these boards, and you would plunk these on them using the clips that they so handily provide, and you would put these rooms together and then use the clips to hold the rooms together, hold them nice and tight together. So there's the clips, and you would just go ahead and clip them wherever you need to maintain the positioning and shape. And you notice that you have walkways, breezeways that you can go through. So you have some walls that are closed, and you have some walls that are open. And so you can butt them together so you have open walkways where your figures can go through, or you could, of course, not. So it's up to you. Of course, you would put these together however you want to.
A little bit about the quality on these. There's a slight laminate to the cardboard, which is nice and smooth. And I'm looking over carefully on the edges, and it's nice and smooth and sealed. There's no rough cuts. There's no problems. It's pretty good quality.
Yeah, very, very nice cardstock cardboard. I'd say that looks to me to be roughly maybe getting close to an 1/8 inch thick. Very nice, thick, heavy-duty stuff. And you can do certain things, like if you were using this in a dungeon-style sort of setting, you can have this zone, for example, closed off, and if somebody sets off a trap or hits a switch or something, you take that off and voila, you have an opening now. That kind of thing. You can do that sort of thing. So you'll have a number of these sort of pop-up cube-shaped rooms in here. You'll have probably, I don't know, about 6 or 8 of these in there. You have a few of these walls in there that you can put together in various ways. We have a couple more of those tiles that I was talking about, those 7x7 tiles that you could use for various corners and things like that. And you even have, for some reason, you have a larger board that breaks down. I don't know. I assume this would be used, again, in order to fill out a table, to make a table square after you've put together the various panels in various ways. And that is largely it for this particular package. Again, this is essentially their dungeon zone, but done in the sci-fi theme. And again, thinking Necrons, this could be representative of an interior of a Necron catacomb or something of that nature.
Now, did you pay as much for this one as you did for the first set we just unboxed?
Each of the zones in the Kickstarter was about $100. I believe it was $99 per zone. This is not really a full zone in and of itself. It's really meant to be an add-on to the Obsidian Zone. Yeah. This was a little less. I believe this was about $70 if I recall correctly. Okay. But it had the same style, so I went ahead and got it because it matched with the Obsidian Zone. And then that, of course, would be the Kickstarter price. Down the road, when they go retail with this, the Obsidian Zone, what we've been showing you here today, was Kickstarter exclusive. That's one of the reasons why I chose it, besides the fact that I just like the sci-fi theme. But this Obsidian Zone and the Obsidian style is a Kickstarter exclusive. When they go retail, they'll have 3 of the zones. They'll have the Cathedral Zone, the Ancient Zone, and the Dungeon Zone will be their regular retail going forward. And those are expected to retail somewhere in the neighborhood around $125 to $150, I think. They're going to be slightly more expensive than they were in the Kickstarter.
That makes sense, yeah.
And so, real quick here, let's take a moment to pop these back into the box. As you can see, these pack away nice and quick.
They do.
Actually, this one should go right over here. Actually, let's see. Like that. That. Let's see now. These probably go over here. And then this goes over here. And then this goes on top. And voila, as quick as that, we're packed away. I would envision being able to set up a table full of terrain probably on the order of 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how finicky you are about setup and whether you add any of your own scatter terrain to it. Something like this probably wouldn't need as much scatter terrain, but the other set with all those open spaces, you'd probably want to throw some extra terrain on there, so it might take a few extra minutes to do that. The back of the box here, of course, replicates that graphic showing the various different patterns that you could put this together to produce boards of different sizes, going anywhere from as little as a 3x3 to as much as a 4x6. And of course, because this set matches thematically with the other set, there's no reason why you couldn't mix and match. Take pieces of this box, put them with pieces of the other box, and come up with even more variations on the terrain. So that's the World Tomb Zone. Be right back with the stretch goals. Okay, and we're back with the last bit that we're doing today. This is a package of the stretch goals. These are some items, some extras that were thrown in, some nice little gewgaws here. Let's crack these open real quick and have a look at what all extra we got in the Kickstarter. So this is a shrink wrapped package like everything else. So let's go ahead and peel this off of here.
Are these meant to be objective markers?
These could be used for basically anything that you might like. So for instance, right off the top here, we have a couple of what appear to be sort of magic circle-y kinds of things. These could be used for objectives, certainly. These could just denote special zones, maybe where special effects occur on the board or things of that nature. So you just have various magically looking graphics and so forth that could be applicable to a variety of settings and themes. We have a couple of, I'm not exactly sure what these are supposed to represent. These look like maybe pits.
They could be craters, rough terrain.
Craters,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. These could be used for a variety of things. I see some graphics here like rebar sticking out. Maybe this could be used for rough terrain, rough areas, things of that nature. You have a few tokens here, numbered tokens that you might potentially be able to use in a variety of games. Almost all games could use counters and tokens of various kinds. So you have a couple little nifty little counters that go there. So, yeah. All right, that's nice. That's a nice add-on. You have some trees here, basically, is what these are. So you punch these out, and you slot them together to make trees. Remember, these were add-on extras. These were just extra things that came in the Kickstarter. Not awesome, I would say, but you know, in a pinch, you need some trees or some scatter terrain or something. You need something to block line of sight, something to give your troops some cover, or at least hindering terrain or anything of that nature. You could punch a couple of these out, throw these onto the board, and shazam, you've got some trees. You got a whole sheet of these look like normal deciduous type trees. And then you have a sheet here of what appears to be palm trees of some sort. More of a tropical sort of a style there. So, you know, just nice little extras, just nice things to have. Nothing earth-shaking here, but just nice to have little extra things that could make your day if you needed them. If you showed up for a game and somebody forgot to bring their trees, well, okay, you've got some right here. These here are essentially they're walls of various styles. So this one here is kind of just a stone sort of a style that you can just throw on the board, and you can create these low-lying areas where maybe it could either hinder traffic, or it could be like a low-lying sort of a trench kind of a zone where your troops could line up behind them. Again, nothing super special, but just nice to have value add here that goes in with the rest of the package. You have a few small crates, some small boxes. They're a little bit fiddly. I could see them taking a little bit of time to assemble, but basically you punch these out, you fold them up together and they look to be roughly 1-inch cube crates. Again, beats nothing if you don't have a lot of scatter terrain already. This could potentially be useful, at least hold you over until such time as you do have more terrain in your inventory. But as you can see, you could build a bunch of small crates just, again, for scatter, just for visual appeal, if nothing else. You have what appears to be some, I guess these would be like rivery type tiles or pools. You could use these to just create areas of water, I guess, is what these would be for.
Did they do a fantasy-based themed release of Kickstarters at all? Because it's interesting how we have trees and rivers kind of thrown in with the more Tomb World feel. So did they do any fantasy type stuff?
Not as such. They didn't do any outdoorsy kinds of things.
Right.
This is probably about as close as they got to here. But these would appear to be basically water areas and pools and water canals and things like that. And these would be bridges that would go over the water areas. So again, nothing meant to be earth-shaking here. This is not meant to be, you know, any great amazing stuff. It's just extra stuff. These are just the Kickstarter stretch goals that they threw in just to give you extra things to play with. Again, the boards had a lot of open space on them, and you can fill some of that space with these. Create canals and rivers, impediments to your troops, or potentially, depending on the game system, they might even help your troops, especially if you use the bridges, for example. Those would be access zones. Those would be pinch points where maybe, you know, the troops have to come through to get across, and those become fire lanes and things like that. So just some nifty little gewgaws. Finally, we come to the most controversial piece of the stretch goals. We have these are cling stickers. These are plastic stickers that you peel off, and you're meant to place them on the board to represent various things like blasts. You have literally blood splatter, things of that nature. Unfortunately, and Epic, everything Epic, they acknowledge this. These should have been transparent, and instead they were printed on this white sheet, which means, of course, that they stick out like a sore thumb when you peel and stick them onto the boards. Like, say you take this blast here, for example. It's just a nice little sort of vinyl-y, cling kind of a thing. You can throw it on there, but you notice that, of course, you have the white all around it because it's not transparent. So they acknowledge that. They apologize for that. They had intended to do these transparent, but they had limitations in terms of the printer that they were using. They were running up against time constraints because they were already running late in the fulfillment, so they decided to just go ahead and pull the trigger.
Just knock it out.
Just knock it out and get it done. Again, these were freebies. It's not like you paid anything extra really for these. These just came as freebies in the set. Some folks might be able to use these. Most folks have already indicated they really don't particularly like these and probably wouldn't use these. But there's some interesting graphics here. You have a couple of skeletons and bloody bones and things like that. It's really too bad that they didn't manage to get these done in transparent, but you know, maybe some folks might be able to make use of these, and if not, they're just a couple sticker sheets. It really doesn't matter. These things alone are already pretty useful right here. They could make someone's day, especially again if you don't already have a scatter terrain of your own. These things could probably come in handy for you. So that's the packet of stretch goals for the UpZone Kickstarter. Be right back with final thoughts.
All right, Manuel, tell me what you think about your new stuff.
Well, I'm really pleased with this. As a reminder to the folks watching the video, I purchased this as just a regular Kickstarter member for myself. This was not sent to us for review. I chose to buy into this, and we chose to do a review of it, an unboxing of it for your edification. I'm very pleased with it. I've been reading a lot about it. It's taken a lot of willpower on my part to keep from opening it until we shot this video, because I was really, really wanting to get into this.
Yes.
And I have to say, I'm quite pleased for the amount that I paid. Again, Kickstarter price per zone was $99 per zone, and then the various add-ons were a little bit extra, and the, of course, stretch goals were free. I think for the price I paid, I got a lot of product. This is a lot of terrain packed up into a small space that's very flexible, that I could use for a lot of different games and a lot of different styles. I'm pleased as punch with it.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah.
Well, folks, we've come to the end of our show. We hope you liked what you saw. Please, as always, if you enjoyed what you saw, like and subscribe down below. Thank you so much for being with us, and see you next time.
Thank you.